What's up, everyone? I'm Liz Hunt.
I'm Chelsea Poppens.
And you're listening to the Agency Rocket Show, where we talk about the chaos of running our creative agency. So, Chelsea, what are we talking about today?
Yeah, we have a new series. I know you guys missed us. We're back.
We're back.
We're back better than ever. Had a little downtime. You know, I got pregnant. I had to knocked up.
Big gasp.
Oh my gosh, big gasp.
Yay, we're having a boy. So exciting.
Me and my partner are having a boy.
So exciting.
End of October. So, had to take a step back and not throw up and get through trimester 1, the usual. So, but we're back better than ever.
Yeah.
Woo! Our previous series was the branding series, where we kind of went into depth of our process when we take on clients for branding. Mm-hmm. And now we're going to go hopping into our website series. So we'll also talk through our processes.
Yeah.
We'll talk about how that branding phase goes hand in hand with our website builds, or if we don't do a branding with a client and we're just doing their website, what that looks like. And so I like the website stuff a lot. It's structural. It's fun. So I really like this series, and I'm excited for what we're going to discuss.
I love it. Yeah. Okay. So first thing we want to talk about is like how a brand really interacts with a website, and like why you still need a brand for your website, because they are actually still pretty crucial for each other. And as a reminder, a brand is not a logo. A brand is kind of the overarching concept, reputation, emotions, feel, culture, all the different parts of an organization. And a visual identity is your logo, your color palette, your fonts, all these things, right? And a website falls up under that visual identity piece. So whenever we're talking about how your brand translates into a website, there's a lot of different factors that are placed on a website that are part of the visual identity and so on. So some of the things that we were thinking about for this episode to talk through for branding on the website and the visual identity for the website would be, first thing is, oftentimes when a client is thinking about hiring you for your service, for your product, for your equipment, whatever it is, a lot of times they are going to find you first on some form of digital platform. They're going to see your digital presence first, right? And whether that's your social media or probably your website, right? And so your website is where you have the chance to really, really showcase who you are as an organization, showcase that brand, showcase that visual identity, and really give them some top-notch, this is who we are as an organization. This is our front door. Welcome to our house type of thing. And so that's why having a great website, a site that loads really well, a site that works really easy and is easy to navigate, a site that is beautiful, functional, and everything in between is such a valuable piece for a company.
Yeah. I hit the nail on the head. It really is that first experience. What's your first impression of the company, the people that you're looking to work with? And I think we all have stopped at the doorstep of a very horrible website, and you're like, I don't know how to find what I'm looking for. I don't even know what you offer. Yeah. Where are you located?
Yeah.
Are you even in my city?
Yeah.
And like all that information, like it's also just like that personable feel. Like if you are a small business, you need to have that personal touch in order to get people in the door, because you don't have the brand recognition of a big name. Or like, that's why faces matter, whether it's on social media and your website, your family story of how the business got started, like all those personal touches are what's going to like create those leads and drive new customers and new revenue and keep your business active. And so that's why people hire us, that we can map out that strategy and like help convert people instead of people just bouncing around from website to website, seeing what fits. Like yours will make an impact in their mind and they'll remember you.
Yeah.
And they'll have some good call to actions to get a hold of you.
Yes. And I mean, that's such a good point. You know, like we've all seen those websites that are like super
garbage.
Actually, I was going to say the opposite because I was sort of going the opposite point with it. But something you kind of said made me think of this. But we've all seen the websites that are like super, super beautiful, but you have either no idea what they're saying, you know? So like the content is actually like, what? It's so aspirational or so ambiguous that you're like, do they even know what they actually do?
Yeah.
I think maybe the person that wrote this content has no idea what they actually do. You know, it's just like
ambiguous.
So ambiguous.
Yeah.
That it's like, okay, but like, what do you do?
What do you want me to do?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. So like having call to actions, right? But then there's also the other side of that too, which is like websites that are so beautiful, but you cannot for the life of you find where you're supposed to go or like what you're supposed to do. It's like, oh my gosh, this website is so stinking cool, but I can't find anything. What do I do? And so there's quite a few different pieces and principles that we build into a website whenever we're building them, because it's not all about making something beautiful. To be honest, that probably comes as a tertiary, maybe even, I don't know what the fourth place. I don't know what the word for fourth place is. It's a supporting element to it because there's a ton of effort that we build for the site architecture and user flow and the user experience. Like, how does a user navigate the site and figure out the easiest way to get to what it is that they are trying to understand, get to, and find on your website? And then on top of that, getting them the content that they need within all of those user flows. So there's a whole other element of what we call content strategy through a website. And that's getting people the right content in the right places and making sure that they understand it too. It's kind of a pitfall that I think some people who are used to writing marketing content maybe forget that it's like, let's make it so snazzy. And they forget that there's like people who have to actually read this and like understand it. Yes, you want your marketing copy to be really snazzy, but you also have to remember that people have to read it and understand what you're saying. Like they have to understand that there are actions throughout the website that you have to take, you know? So there's a balance for that. And then underneath all that is the beautiful design, you know, the interface of how it all looks and stuff. So there's quite a few different layers for this, and you have to brand it also according to the organization's brand and tone of voice and messaging and creative and visual identity and all these different things.
Yeah. So, and at the end of the day, does that baby look like yours?
Yeah. I mean, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously there's a process to this, and Liz has done a great job running DayCloud for the last 13, 14 years, I don't know, and setting up this strategy. So it does mirror our branding process a little bit. If you listen to that series from our Kickoff, obviously there's different things that we're seeking within each of these, but like our Kickoff and our discovery meeting being at the very beginning of the process. And specifically like high level, we go from our Kickoff and mapping out that sitemap. This is obviously after we've already had a introductory sales call with them, gotten to know what their needs and some of that is and what exactly they're wanting out of a website. And then we send them our contracts and we map out all of the deliverables so everything's clear, expectations are set. And then we have our kickoff meeting with our whole team so they can understand what we're doing with the sitemap, what pages, what content, and things are going. Then we have our discovery. And I'm gonna go breeze through this high level, and then we can get into a little bit more depth. Our discovery workshop, if we haven't already done it with the branding, if we branded them, we've already done a 2-hour workshop where we dove into all of the questions and details. If we're just hopping into this website and we've never deep dived into who they are and their audience and their goals and things, we may do another workshop in hand with that interactive mood board, this time of websites and inspiration, not ours, so people can pick it apart and be critical. Yes. And then wireframing our homepage, full site, and then our dev link presentation, and then finally we'll launch. But as we get into the series, like we're going to do a high level of what those are, but we'll get a little deeper into detail for each of those phases.
Yeah, that's great. I think you hit something earlier that I maybe wanted to explain a little bit more. For our website contracts, I always make sure that I outline how many pages are going to go on the website.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
And what those pages are going to be. And obviously there are some sites that, like you can't know. Like we don't know, we haven't figured it out. And so in those cases, I will only do a contract for a discovery time with a client. And in that discovery time, we will essentially discover how big the website is going to be, and we'll essentially scope out the full size of the website. That way I'm not pretending like I know and then being upside down.
Falling out of scope.
Yeah.
Like, exactly. You realize this wasn't in our initial bid.
Yeah, exactly. And that's usually for like the bigger sites that will do something like that. But for a lot of the sites that are small to medium sized, we typically know how many pages we're going to do and usually what those pages are. We usually have a pretty good idea. And so I will say this website is going to be 13 pages and we're going to do creative. We're going to do custom creative, custom messaging, and custom development for, and then home, about, services, service detail, and then if there's any sort of special development features, like let's say we're going to have some sort of API integration or something that's sort of outside of like a normal website build that we would do. And so I will make sure and list that also in our contract. So those are just some things that we do in our firm that help us manage the scope with a client. And it has saved our butts several times so that we can go back and say, hey, just a reminder, these are the only pages we said we would do, or this is how many pages we said we would do from our contract. So if you want to add that page, that's great, but it'll be additional scope. And it's just helped us manage that scope creep quite a bit. And so just make sure that you're listing out, numbering that, and maintaining that from the get-go.
I would say, to your point, the amount of times in this last year that we have had to go back to the contract, send the contract to a client to refresh their memory, or even if it's sometimes the same client, even if you don't think it'll happen, like just go above and beyond in setting up your project and expectations with the client from the get-go. Like that contract is the key to the project running successfully at the end of the day.
Yeah. A lot of this job, especially in working with clients, is managing expectations. And so if you just set the expectations from the beginning, which is setting those expectations is literally just communicating. Just tell them, hey, this is what we're doing. This is how it works. And this is how we do this. If you just set those expectations from the beginning, then things will be a lot smoother for you. I promise. It goes a lot better. So people just don't like surprises. They don't like finding out later that, oh, I only get 13 pages for my website, that type of a thing. And then the other thing I would say about a contract for this kind of thing, I don't know if this is extra generous or not. I really don't know, but Chelsea, you were kind of stating all the different phases and steps that we take through a website. And so what we do is we give them 2 rounds of edits per phase. So for a sitemap, when we're building out a sitemap with the client, which usually by this time it's done if it's a smaller site. But then if we go to wireframes, we give them 2 rounds of edits for the wireframes. And then after that, it's 2 rounds of edits for the content and homepage design, because that's the next step. And then after that, it's 2 rounds of edits for the rest of the site's content and homepage designs. So it's each phase gets their own 2 rounds of edits, because it's really each phase is its own deliverable. And so that helps, one, manage those things, but also I think it helps us kind of,
set the parameters,
but also be generous with the clients. Because if we said from wireframe to end, you get 2 edits.
We only want to hear from you twice.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that would make our lives a lot easier, but we probably would have a lot of unhappy clients also. So we wouldn't have too many people returning. So that it just kind of helps us stay in alignment with the client throughout the process. But it also helps manage those expectations, because we can say, okay, at this phase, you get 2 rounds. And at this phase, you get 2 rounds. So,
and I think if you're a creative listening to this, even if you're starting off, this is the perfect, this is amazing advice. Take this, plant it in your brain, because I think all of you or all creatives have worked with somebody who just constantly sends nitpicky edits here and there. And then you're kind of just rolling your eyes, and you're is this is a little bit petty. And then your pride kind of takes a little bit of a stomping, but this protects that too. Having a specific round of edits outlined in your contract. And then it's also helped us in various phases to be we are at our 2 rounds of edits. This might be something that we save for the dev phase. You have 2 rounds for the dev phase. It's not a no, but it's a yes. And we push it off just to a different phase so that we can lump it all together and not waste our people's time, our time in meetings, and then keep the project moving along.
Yes. And that's kind of our script for edits. Yes. And we'll do it later.
Yes.
Yes. And we'll send you an estimate. It's good. It's good. Okay. So where do you want to go from here? Do you want to dive a little bit deeper into some of those?
I think we kind of covered, I think the kickoff and the sitemap is pretty, I guess you can go into it a little bit more, of how you tackle it. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Okay. So the first meeting that we typically have once contracts have been signed and everything with our client is we do what we call a sitemap meeting. And this is usually one of the first of 2 pretty boring meetings for a client, I think. But what we do is we put their sitemap, their navigation, menu items into an Excel spreadsheet, and then we write out notes on what all features, content, high level overview pieces that are going to go on each page of the website. And we go over that with them. And we make sure that we're not missing any major kind of areas and stuff like that. And then Chelsea will talk about our
status stuff.
Thank you.
Milestones.
Site updates. Status update document where they can find their client portals, their client to-dos, the DayCloud deadlines, our to-dos, all kinds of stuff like that, where they are supposed to find all of their information. And then typically we don't have time, but on the slight chance that we do, we'll also include our interactive mood board conversation in that meeting. But if not, if we don't have time for that, we'll set our next meeting for the interactive mood board. And our interactive mood board meeting is very similar to our brand version of this, except for this time we do it with websites. We will use our Milanote platform, and we have tons and tons of screenshots of different websites, again, all different kinds that we'll show them, and then we'll drop them into the yes, no, maybe buckets, just like we would for a brand project. And then we'll talk through them, talk through what they like, have them give us their favorites. And so that is really, really helpful, especially if, like Chelsea was saying earlier, if they did not build a brand with us, then that really informs us on the look and feel and stylistic preferences that they will have for their website. And just for different types of brands, people just have a lot of different tastes. And so again, like if we didn't build their brand, then we need to have a better understanding on the type of stuff that they're looking for. And then based on that, we can help steer them towards what's going to be great for their audience based on, okay, so you guys like this kind of style, this kind of look. Okay, this is what we know will work great for your audience as well.
Yeah. I think it's also cool to align their thought process because they may think they want something, but then they realize that's not what they actually want at the end of the day. That's not the final product that they really want. And sometimes it's just the cool special features because when you're not technically in this world of website development, you don't know what's possible. And you don't know what's not possible because they're like, I want this. Like then we have a chance to explain from a user perspective too of like, this isn't user-friendly. Carousels aren't always great on websites, or from an SEO perspective, that might not be. Like we can explain things just a little bit better when we have that visual side by side before we actually get to the actual creation portion where we're spending our time creating something that we want to hit the first time.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. You're already starting that communication and setting those expectations with the client. It's so true. Yeah, setting that up. What's our next step after the interactive mood board?
I would like to talk about the discovery workshop just a little bit. Sure. And for those that are just hopping in for the website process and didn't listen to our branding series, you should go listen to it. But the discovery workshop is usually like a 2-hour meeting where we dive into a ton of different questions, nailing down their audience, who they are, their core values, why they're different from their competitors, who their competitors are, their demographics, who their audience is, and then even just like some fun creative ways of identifying themselves, whether that's who would be your spokesperson? If you were an animal, what type of animal would it be? What kind of beverage would it be? What type of car would be? Just different creative ways to attack who you are as a company, as a business, and how you want to come off to your audience too. Like I think sometimes from our agency perspective or creative perspective, since we're in it all the time, we're like, oh, duh, like that's common sense. We tend to like profile certain businesses that come to us. And this discovery session allows us to get outside of our own parameters and the box that we would put most clients in. And from their perspective, like if they're a CPA, they're very data driven and they're very like, they're functional and everything's compartmentalized. And for them to get their head into that creative space or explain things of what they want, like that makes them just think differently about the final product. And then like Liz and I talked about previously, we're always going back to the beginning of our conversations, whether that's the contract, whether it's discovery, to explain why we are doing what we're doing. And at the end of the day, like that's why we have such great communication and why our clients love working with us, because we want to make sure that we are listening and actively listening throughout the entire process. Yeah,
that's such a good point. To that end, like we've come across so many clients doing this interactive mood board piece has honestly like changed the game for our output and results and for our clients. And just like, I think how happy our clients have ended up being, because it's really just lowered so many of the barriers that we've had in the past from not knowing what's in people's minds and like, you know, just like what they are thinking when they say modern and simplistic versus what I think when I think modern and simplistic. And, you know, when they say, I want something gold and I think, you know, this color, and they're actually thinking like orange, you know, just because there's so many different ways of communicating the same types of things. And so I think it's really just helped, honestly, just like change our entire process and the results that we're able to get for our clients. It's been huge. And I think our clients are much happier because of this, because of doing this interactive mood board, because we can look at the same piece of design work and say, this is what I like about it. I like this font and I like it because of this, and so it's just helped so much.
Yeah. From our interactive mood board, we step into that wireframing phase, which I don't know if everybody does this, but we do it for sure. It kind of takes the design element out of it so that people can look at the structure of the website, the sections that will be on the website, and they don't get hung up on things of like, oh, is that button blue or red or the whole color? Like, so it takes an element out of it so that they can think logically and strategically, and we can talk through the navigation and why it is the way it is, or what else is needed, because it's very high level. Like the content is usually lorem ipsum or just like basic identifiers. The buttons are just like maybe learn more. So they're not getting really hung up on the content either. It's just like, these are the things that need to be on the homepage. And then you have the interior pages and you walk through what needs to be on those pages as well. Because then our next thing is, we didn't really talk about it, but that content meeting, like that's a whole other conversation where we dive into content and get to know, like ask specific questions. So our amazing copywriter, Keaton and Molly, can build out the content for the site so that it reflects you better.
Yeah. The thing about wireframing is you're building out the blueprint of the website, and just like how building out a house, you are framing out all the different parts and rooms of the house. That's what you do for a wireframe. You are framing out all the different content, functionality, and different pieces and elements of a website. So, for example, if you're like, okay, I do want a big featured image here with some marketing content, like you wireframe that in. A lot of times we will do what's called high fidelity wireframes. We, in the past, have done more just like blocking, but as we've kind of grown and stuff, we do what we call more high fidelity wireframes, which is a little bit more specific and detailed wireframing. And I think it's really helpful for clients. Sometimes, though, the kind of con with that one, the challenge can be that clients think that that is going to be what the design will look like. And so there is a little bit of a challenge sometimes with that, because I've had clients respond with, well, can you align those to the left? Or instead of centering that, can you make that left aligned? And I'm like, this is not the design. This is just, or they'll say like, can we have the font be our brand font? And I'm like, stop. Like, this is, make them all Helvetica or whatever we do. This is not
this ain't it.
This is not your design. Like, this is just a wireframe. So that's just one thing that to keep in mind, is that there's pros and cons to doing the high fidelity, which is what we typically do. The other thing to the content thing is, I always prefer to have a phone call, but I've also noticed that clients don't always prefer that. And so we try to be adaptable to whatever a client needs. So if a client wants to answer questions that we send them over email, then we adapt to that. Or sometimes what is easy for a client is we send them questions over email and they answer it on voice memo and email that back to us. We'll try to be.
Sometimes it's a Valley dealer and he's like, I'm in the field at this time.
Yeah.
And so then we'll have our copywriter call them in the field, because I mean, if you're a farmer and you're building a website at the same time, like you're just sitting in a tractor and it's hard to schedule a time to hop on a Zoom meeting or something. Yeah. So we try to meet you where you're at.
Exactly. Yeah. So we try to be adaptable with that and basically do it however we can get the information. But yeah,
I will come to your house.
Yeah. I know where you live and I've seen where you sleep.
I will stop by your office.
Yeah. Okay. Next. So after we have content, wireframes, all that good stuff, then we finally do a design. So we've done all our planning, we've done the logistics, we know what we're building, we know what we're doing, all this stuff. So we give them a homepage design, and we always give them homepage design with content. So we always do both. because I think it's a more finished, professional look. We always include photos if we can. So whether it's their photos or stock photos, we always do that. Whatever the most finished product, most finished look that we can possibly give them, that is what we present in our homepage design. So,
yeah. And that's where they can actually see it come into life. And we make sure we lock this in because it really sets the tone and the look and the feel for the rest of the interior site. And we don't want to do all the interior work and then have them come back and be like, oh, we need everything changed. This button needs to look like this, or just very nitpicking things that are going to affect the rest of the website isn't a good use of our time.
Yes. Exactly. And so then we don't move on until everything on the homepage is approved, content and design both. And they still get those 2 rounds of edits for the homepage content and design. So we go through that. Everything is approved. And then we move into content and design for the interior pages. Keeping in mind that the way that we do this is we only build and design like one service page. Because once it goes onto once the developer he only needs to build out one service page. So we only design out one service page. And then once we have it on the site, we can just duplicate it and then input content for the other service pages. Same with like team bios. We only build out like one team bio. So that's something to keep in mind. Is essentially what we do is we build out all the primary templates for each page. And then for anything that's like a duplicate, we wait until the website is actually built from our developer to input all that content and photography and stuff.
Yeah, because from the development side of things, if you are a little more techie, we use CMSs to help kind of make it a little more efficient, especially if you have multiple services, you'll have on the back end, like your H1 and like all the content in a very structured CMS. And that way, like if somebody wants to add another service, so you're just populating the same fields for each page. And so that's why we do a lot of like that templated option for services specifically, or any duplicate pages like the blog detail page. Like those are all CMS related, if you know what that means. But that just helps the flow and helps keep cost saving measures down too for the client and us.
And then to clarify, we make our own websites. Everything is custom designed. So like we're not using a WordPress template. We are custom designing it and creating our own custom theme for that client. So we build sites on WordPress and Webflow. We have developers for both.
Sometimes Squarespace, depending on the need.
And then if a client is particularly conscientious of their cost, then sometimes we will work with them to build a Squarespace website. That is very, very, very few.
Not our favorite.
Yes, it's not very often, but it's usually like we're doing a favor for someone that we know and care about or something.
Family and friend discounts.
Kind of, yeah. So we don't do that very often. Our primary website platforms are WordPress and Webflow, but all of them, we build our own custom themes for each client on. Anyway, so once we have all the designs and content approved from the client, then we send it off to our developer. So we build out our dev assets, we build out our style sheets and things like that. In XD and Figma. Actually, I think everybody uses Figma now. So I think everybody on our team now uses Figma. So never mind, not XD. And then we send him our Figma files, and then he develops it out from there. And while he's developing it out, we work with the client to continue gathering any photos, videos. Maybe there's like FAQs that they need to send us that we can polish up, or their team bios, whatever it needs to be. We continue to, that's a lot of Chelsea's purview, is continuing to work on the client to gather
pestering people.
Yes, because typically they haven't sent us everything we need by this point. So
yeah, some people do an amazing job. Some people just take a little bit more time.
Some people take a lot more time. So some people, we have to draft half of the website because they can't get
And then we show them how bad
together.
it looks without their information.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
That dev link phase is, well, obviously the development is usually like the longest phase of our process because our developers actually creating it and implementing those designs and putting the content in there and making sure that the links are all working. There's a lot of just different areas where we have to take a look at it, review it, make sure everything's functioning properly. And then when we show our client, usually it's not mobile responsive just yet, which means that it's not quite to the point where you can view it on mobile, tablet, and usually it's just desktop because sometimes clients will change up content. They'll want some small tweaks in that dev phase. We don't want that to affect like double the work if we have to change something from the tablet to the mobile to the thing. Yeah. So after they've approved that dev link, the live, not staged site, but it's still interactive. You can still function like a normal website. It's just not out there for the public view and it's not indexed on Google. Then once we have their approval, we'll make it mobile optimized for all those different platforms and devices. And then we'll launch it and we'll work with their team to get that domain and the DNS and indexed on Google and all the other things that come post-launch. Because that's a different, conversation.
No, that's good. I forgot about all that stuff that you and the other marketing people do. Yeah, because you guys add on the back end, there's a few things you do pre-launch, and then there's a few things you do post-launch. So we add Google Analytics to the site. We make sure that gets added. And then you also do alt tags.
Yeah, we do a lot of the SEO fundamentals. So we do the meta descriptions. We'll do the alt image text. Text. Some
metadata, meta descriptions, alt text.
Yeah, the meta titles, meta descriptions. That stuff is like the basic fundamentals of SEO. In the content we build on each site, there's already SEO keywords and that type of stuff in there. So that's not fully affected. But then, like you said, we'll index it on the Google Search Console. We'll add a Google tag and then Google Analytics so that we can track the data and the website traffic that's coming in. I'm like, it's just a standard process that I'm like forgetting.
No, you're good. When you say Google tag, is that the Google tag manager? Do you automatically add?
You don't always have to. So like Webflow, I know this is getting in the weeds. Webflow really only requires Google Analytics. You don't have to add the Google tag. But sometimes for like our WordPress sites, we'll just add the Google tag because it's just like one step further in case anybody wants to do like ads in the future or things like that. But in order to track the basic data, which is essentially what we promise, we'll make sure you are able to see the traffic to your website. They really only need the Google Analytics code added to the back end and that tag.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's helpful. And I think that's a huge add-on that we include as part of all of our websites, optimizing it for Google search and stuff. So once it's launched and live and everything, we send a final invoice. And then after that, you record some training videos.
Yes. If I need to for their site, like I send any type of training videos. So Webflow has like the client facing side training videos that I can just send off. I don't need to record it. But like our specific like WordPress, sometimes the back end looks a little bit different for value dealers versus some of our other types of clients. So it might require just like a little more of my involvement for recording how to add media, change pages, change things like that. So we send that, we add them to the account and give them permissions on the back end. And we also work with them. This is just kind of like a unthought of thing when you push a site live is like any redirects. So if they have a current website, we'll help them set up like a redirect of that old URL. If they have a different URL if they're changing their business name, we'll help them set that up. Yeah. And then sometimes we'll go even a step further, setting up like the subdomain redirects for those services pages. But like just to keep in mind for you guys as creatives or agencies or whoever, like that is time consuming and it is like a lot of communication if you don't have like full access to their account, like 2-step verification or working directly with their IT guy to make sure these redirects are set up properly. Like there's a lot more small things that go in like into just like, oh yeah, we pushed your site live. There's still like more that you could do.
Yeah.
There's always more.
Complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah. If only there was just a switch.
Yep. But
yeah. Make me a website, please.
That was easy.
Yeah. So that is our website process. We do a lot. There's a lot to it. There's a lot of planning. There's a lot of communication. There's a lot of managing client expectations and working with the client, aligning on goals, internally aligning with each other, and just working together, I think, as a team. It's a big undertaking. And that's why you hire a team like us, because we take those types of things that are bigger projects and more complicated projects and help you walk through them with a very specific process. But we do it all the time, and we've done hundreds of them. And so we can help make it simple and easy and hopefully a little bit fun for a client. So, yeah.
Yeah, because we're fun people.
So fun.
Super fun.
So fun.
Incredibly fun. Yeah, so we're really excited. Hopefully you guys are excited for the rest of the series as we dive into a little bit more about websites, especially in this day and age where there's so many different platforms out there that you can use or tools you can use. Mm-hmm. And so we'd love your feedback or anything that you'd like to learn more about. Please send it our way. You know how to contact us. We're all over the place, whether it's social media, DayCloud, or email, or whatever means of messaging is amazing. And if you like this podcast, please like, share, follow, put your friends on this podcast. Like, we want to hear from them. Have a great week, guys.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.